Hi, it's Rob Moore here, and I'm with Shaq Hussyin. Shaq Hussyin is in the house.
What's up, everyone?
Shaq Hussyin has the Shaq Hussyin Show. And he's interviewing me on his podcast today, and we're live streaming on my YouTube and my Facebook. Shaq, thanks for having me on your show. Thanks for being on my platforms. I'm all yours, my friend.
I appreciate it. So, Rob, firstly, thank you so much for this. We have been spending so much time in Clubhouse together, and I wanted to take you out. I heard you got 1,500 people in that room, which I'm also in that room. So I put my phone away here. Wanted to go deep and ask you a couple of good questions that's in my mind and that's in a lot of entrepreneurs' minds. So first and foremost, for those of you guys who are new to Rob's work, Rob is the founder of a company called Progressive Property, one of the largest UK property companies in UK.
The largest.
I'll make sure I say that. The largest property company. I have got personal mentoring from him, and I have been learning from him for many, many years. And I am super excited to be here to talk about, Rob, what do you see as the future of marketing online? And just to kind of put things in perspective, right? For all of those you who are watching this new, Rob has done over 100 million pounds. So not just 9 figures, $100 million, but over 100 million pounds in sales. His training company does around 20 million pounds a year. And all around good guy. He's got 17 books out there, tons of speaking awards, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And when I look at someone who's kind of always riding the trend, I think of you, right? Because I'm like, okay, he's always on it. Like, you seem to just make lots of time to be on top of all the trends. I even heard you got a TikTok show as well.
Boom. I'm going to do a video a day for 365 days.
Wow.
Leveling up this year on my personal brand. So
I like it.
All the channels.
I like it. So, Rob, for those people that don't know who you are and of my very poor introduction, in one or two sentences, what do you do?
So I'm an entrepreneur, have been since 2005/6. I've written 17 business-related books, business, property, etc. Have the Disruptive Entrepreneur podcast. We're at episode 620. Just interviewed, I think, our 15th billionaire. Had some great guests over the years. That podcast's been running 5 years. Have the Rob Moore Foundation, which was set up to help young and underprivileged entrepreneurs start meaningful businesses to change the world. Like you said, we've done 9 figures, on the high side revenue since we've been a training company. Our best year was 21 million gross revenue. COVID bit lower, obviously, but actually better profit margin, to be quite honest. I love social media. I love doing podcasts and content. Being an entrepreneur really is what I'm all about. So that's me. I do have a little bit of a life outside. I like collecting things like watches and cars and vinyl. I have had an R44 pilot's license. And
you won the Guinness Book of Records for.
Yeah, I have I don't know if I still have this record. I had for sure. The longest individual public speech, which was 47.5 hours nonstop. And then the longest team speech was about 150 hours. So yeah, I just love business and entrepreneurship. So it's a pleasure to be here talking about that and the future of marketing. Look, I really believe, Shaq, and I'm sure you'd agree, many people are a product or a service-based business and they have no customers or not enough customers, and they don't realize they're actually a marketing business. And I think if we just stopped now and ended this interview, but everyone got that they're actually a marketing business, not just a product and service business, this would have been worth the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I like learning from you in person and from your books. I like the way you write your books, and it's fascinating because I was in Dubai, because I'm always going back and forth in Dubai, and I remember in Dubai in the airport, I'm like, this was a few years ago before I had come and met you, right? I saw this book and I'm like, I know that guy Rob. What's his book doing here in Dubai? And I remember reading it, and I was like, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm just gonna take pictures of it. So when I came back, I bought a whole bunch of your books. The money one is probably my favorite one. And then when I met you and I asked you, hey man, so what's your book funnel? I'm the funnels guy. I'm like, what's your book funnel? And you're like, there is no funnel for the book. And I'm like, okay, you do things somewhat totally different than what I would refer to as a typical online marketer, right? And so kind of I want to really dig deep into what you do and how you do it and the thought process behind that. So let's just start off with the book marketing, right? Like you got 17 books. One, why so many books? Two, how long did they take you to write? And three, like what's the goal with these books?
Okay, why so many books? Because I've been writing books since 2008. So that's actually, it sounds like a lot, but it's only one book, every 9-10 months. Two, because they're not all by Rob Moore, like Money and Life Leverage are by Rob Moore, but 2 or 3 are by Rob Moore and Mark Homer, my business partner, the property ones. I include Mark Homer's books, Uncommon Sense and Low Cost High Life, in those because I helped him write those books. So I was helping build other people's brands as well, like my business partner and my property business. I love content. You know, there's plenty of things, Shaq, that I'm a disaster at. But anyone who's known me or followed me for a while would probably say, look, Rob's pretty prolific on content. He puts a lot of content out there. I really enjoy it. It's kind of therapeutic for me. I like giving value to people. So, yeah, I'm going to write many more books. Another reason, Shaq, is because I have so many ideas for books. I've probably got 60 or 70 ideas. The next one I'm writing, Residual Income. I'm doing the 5th anniversary rewrite of Life Leverage. I'm doing Increase Your Fees with Ease. I've just got too many ideas. My strategy really for writing books, well, one is because I want to get content out to the world that helps people. 2 is because I have so many ideas. But like Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think had sold 20-25 million copies when I last had a look. And none of my books have sold that many yet. But if I write 25 that sell 1 million copies, I'm there. And if I write 250 that sell 100,000 copies, I'm there. So, you know, I might not be perfect, but I'm prolific.
I like that. I like that. What's your book writing thought pattern, the process from start to end?
Okay, so I have an Evernote folder called My Book Ideas. And anytime I get an idea, which is always in a discussion like this, Shaq, or listening to a podcast or out on a walk, it's never like when I sit down and I think, what are my book ideas? It's out when I'm doing stuff. I'll stick it in the Evernote folder. So if I just I'm just going to get this up now while we're talking. I'm going to find it and I'm just going to read some random ideas. So book writing, here we go. Let's have a look. Let it load up. So we've got one on motivation, one on building your empire, one called Stand Out, how to stand out. Let's go down. We've got free your mind or open your mind, one on mindset. We've got, let's have a look here. One about not giving up. Sometimes I just chuck ideas down. I've put here about ignorance isn't bliss, it's ignorance. One about risk. The myth of intelligence. You know, a lot of people say money can't buy happiness. I don't agree with that. Yeah, I could go on and on and on. The myth of work-life balance, the myth of always going with your gut, sequels to money, more money, even more money, big money, young money, fast money, money masters. I just chuck all the pricing, increase your fees with ease. You are not your past. You are not broken. Being rejection proof. So I just chuck all the ideas down as they come. And honestly, Shaq, half of those ideas are shit, at least. Yeah. And they'll never get written. But then what I do is I send those ideas to my publisher, and my publisher goes, oh, we like this and this, and we don't like this. And then we take a choice of 2, we poll it in my communities, and then that's how we choose to write the next book.
How long does it take for you to write each book?
Oh, anywhere from 2 to 9 months, depending on the book. Like Money, the original manuscript was nearly 250,000 words. That was like nearly a year, that book. Start Now, Get Perfect Later was shorter. That probably took me 6 weeks, something like that, about 250 pages, that one. And for me, go on.
Do you write in the morning or in the evening, or how do you structure your time for that?
Right, now it depends. Sometimes I'll bugger off to Sandy Lane or Center Park's the cheap version, and I'll just like go away for 10 days and I'll just like deep immerse, write 6-7 hours a day. Sometimes I'll be at home and I'll put 2 hours a day in and write 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. So, it depends on whether I really feel like if the book's meaty and it's a challenge and I'm procrastinating, I'll bugger off boot camp style and just get it all done. If I feel like I can weave it in, because the concept suits, like Start Now, Get Perfect Later, all chapters were short. I'll just block 1 to 2 hours a day. And I can normally get it done in a few weeks while still doing other things.
What's the promotional plan? What's the marketing behind these books, right? Because you're not running a free plus shipping funnel like everyone else. So like what the heck's going on there?
Yeah, well, I have a different play. So free plus shipping book funnel can be great for building a funnel, but it's not great for the perception of value of the book. So for example, if Rich Dad Poor Dad started being a free book funnel, it would probably slightly devalue the quality of the book. So if I was going to do a book funnel, I'd write a book specifically for that book funnel and keep it separate. But my play for my books is to create a more organic and a more organic funnel would be the word. So actually my books are a funnel. We've generated millions of pounds of people who do my courses and mentorships and masterminds, thanks to initially reading my book. It's interesting, Shaq, because you said you found my book in Dubai, you grabbed it, and we worked together. Now, there was no automated funnel in that, but there was goodwill built remotely on the other side of the world. Yeah. So actually, if you go through my top 250 clients who've spent 25 to 145 grand with us, and you asked them, where did you first find out about Rob or Progressive Property? The majority of them are either Rob's podcast, The Disruptive Entrepreneur, or one of Rob's book. And the two big ones are Life Leverage and Money. So it's a funnel that's not a funnel. It's just more organic. So in your world of funnels, people are going down this sort of very narrow tunnel. But you know those you go to the fairground and you put the money in the slots and they sort of go ding, ding, all the way down like this and then on the conveyor belt and then money comes out at the end. That's my kind of funnel.
Yeah, I like it. That's a very good perspective. Can you talk about your actual funnel? Actually, let's talk about, because when I was, doing masterminds with you and stuff, you did share with us like deep into the funnels, right? Like your funnels, but just kind of as an overview, why funnels are important in your business, and then what sort of funnels are working for you right now? Pandemics happened. Obviously, you've had to transition. So what's been working?
Okay, well, funnels are important because they guide your client from being a prospect to a proper community member or a proper client. And if you don't sell them, someone else will. And if they don't go down your funnel, they'll go down someone else's. Now, a well-architected funnel will take your client on a journey from what they need next to what they need after to what they need after to what they need after, instead of just landing on your website and you trying to sell them every single product you've got. So actually, it's more of a journey than a funnel. I call it a staircase or a vertical. But it's really important to give your prospect turned client the right journey to get them the right results. So for example, I'm always giving loads of free stuff first because I want to give value first before I ask for money. I want to build remote rapport and I want to build trust. Then I'll offer something low value to get trust of spending some money, but also some commitment. Because whilst free is great, free advice can be worth every penny. And sometimes or oftentimes people don't act upon free advice, which is why paid advice has a value in the marketplace, which is why the information business is £1 billion plus business, because people rarely implement what they give them for free. But the more they pay, the more they're likely to be accountable. So then from a low cost offer like a book or a Facebook supporter program, just a few pounds, then it'll be the main course, the education element. And that can be anywhere from £500 to £2,000. Now, I always give complete education. There's never like, oh, you need to do more education and more education within the vertical. They can jump verticals. They can do public speaking or podcasting or social media. But within the vertical, when I do them a course, it's a deep dive and it's everything that they would need at that time, unless there's like a proper advanced level. But what do they then lack after education? Accountability and support. So then the next offer is either the support or the accountability program. And then once they've got to a certain level, what do they usually want? A mentor. And so the mentoring is the next level. And then often after that, there's like the highest level club, maybe the boot camp or the retreat, or, you know, the sort of top 10%, they can go into a club like a mastermind. You know, we all know that, you know, your network is your net worth. So that would be my standard funnel or vertical. We've probably got 18 or 19 of those across our company in different forms.
Wait, go back to that one, right?
Sure.
18 to 19, is that 18 to 19 different product lines?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk to me about
service accommodation, no money down, social media, podcasting, commercial conversion, business funnels? Yeah, all the different.
So how do you structure that? Can you talk me through how do you structure a, you know, 18, 19 different funnels? Do you get an expert in? What do you pay the expert? Do you own the IP? Like, how does that work?
Okay, so it depends. We've built them up since 2008, by the way, Shaq. We didn't do them all at once. Okay. Some have been going, you know, our main property investing course, that's been going since 2008. So it's in its 13th year. So we've built these ourselves just from, you know, learning from people who did it before us, you know, maybe investing in some of the courses of some of the Americans who do it, you know, bigger and better and refining it over time. We have an internal marketing department. In our marketing department, there may be 12, maybe even 15 people, just a sort of a guess head count who, you know, build the customer journeys and do the campaign management and do the show up marketing as well as the front end marketing and the communities at the end that we create. Often there's a lot of cross pollination. Someone will get to the end of one of our funnels and they'll be, oh, I'm thinking about public speaking, and they'll have trust with us. So they'll go across into that one. So, yeah, that's really sort of the structure of it. And I'll always pay for good advice, Shaq. So I think probably 1.2+ million pounds in the last, 13 years. Personally and through our company, we've invested in mentors, in courses, in agencies, you know, and people who can do something that we can't. I think that's really important to speed up your journey and not to make the mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of mentorship. I've spent a lot of money, more than $500,000.
Invested. I bet you've got a return on that $500,000, haven't you?
100%. Yeah. But that's what's helped me sell more than $30 million worth of courses and coaching.
There you go.
So it's worked pretty well. In terms of when are you creating these products from scratch, or are you hiring someone to come and do it? And then are they a partner, or do you just pay them a one-off fee?
Yeah, we don't usually do the one-off fee thing, so we don't buy in intellectual property, but all the other ones we do, Shaq. So in the early years, I created all the IP and I wrote all the course material with my business partner, Mark. After a while, that got quite overwhelming. We had too many funnels, too much responsibility. You know, we were growing too big. So then we'd have partners in, and we'd choose someone. So let's say I wanted to do a funnel on how to create a funnel. I'd get you in, we'd do a partnership, we'd do a 50-50 split, all your IP, all your education, all my audience and marketing. So I do quite a lot of those joint ventures. You know, many people that you know, Shaq, I've partnered with as a one-off or as an ongoing partnership.
I like it. Well, Rob, you have my personal cell. After this, you can text me and we can put something together.
Yeah, let's do a podcast. Not many people do podcast talks or courses or agencies. I'm one of the few, so I think we could definitely do that for your audience. Yeah, let's do something.
For sure. You've done, how many interviews now have you done? How many podcasts?
I've done about 620 episodes. I actually have 2 podcasts. I have one called Money. Yeah. So when you add them together, I've done 800 episodes. I've done about 150 interviews of those, yeah.
Nice. And then you've done about 15 Billionaires, right?
Yeah.
And David, what was his name? David McClaren?
McCall, yeah.
David McCall. That's the guy that I went to go and see because of you.
Yeah.
Like a full day in London, which was 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
So many of these billionaires, when you interview them, what really stands out, right? Like, because you met millionaires, then you met, deca millionaires and the billionaires. What's the thing that's like, you're like, wow, I need to really up level my game?
Yeah. Okay. So they don't fear scale. So the billionaires that I've met and the ones I've studied, they're quite happy to have 1 billion customers. They don't fear that mass scale. You know, some people say, I just want a lifestyle business. I just want an easy life. I just want a few grand a month on a laptop. The billionaires are the opposite of that. So, you know, they're usually going for mass scale. That's number one. Number two, that surprises many people, and I love live streaming them because people change their perception. Just about every billionaire I've met is very grounded and humble. And people assume that they're power driven and egotistical. Maybe some are, I don't know, but not the ones I've met or interviewed. So grounded and humble, number two. Number three, they're extremely curious, very curious. You know, they want to know, like a lot of them, when I start my podcast with them, like I just interviewed Jim Mellon. I interviewed Naveen Jain, who I'm going to launch on Clubhouse. David McCourt. They're asking me as many questions as I'm asking them. And they're supposed to be the guest and I'm supposed to be the interviewer. But the curious mind, that is another trait of billionaires. A passion for business and entrepreneurship. Like I was interviewing Jim Mellon, like I said, a billionaire, and he said, I've got 400 companies. And Rob, if we were down the pub together, we'd probably start a company together. You know, so they love starting companies. Most of them have a private jet. That's just an interesting fact. And some of them for convenience as much as opulence. So, yeah, there's a few common traits of all the ones I've interviewed.
Who's the one that just stands out? Like they were just wow. No, they don't have to be a billionaire. They're just like just someone that you've interviewed that you're like, Shaq, go and interview him.
That's so hard because they're all great in their different way. And yeah, I hate choosing favorites. Like I've become quite good friends with David McCourt and I really like him. And that for me is more important than anything else. The friendships you create, not just the transactional relationships. Like David and Naveen Jain, they're speaking for free for my Young Entrepreneurs Summit, which is really nice of them. But that's a shit answer. And I have to give you a good answer. Gun to my head, who's my favorite billionaire? Probably Naveen Jain, because he was funny. He was quite like, he took the mickey out of me a bit on our interview. There was good banter. He's the only person on the planet to have a license to mine on the moon. He's the biggest thinker I've ever met. You know, he's thinking about how we can get the humanity on the moon and mine minerals there. He's also really humble and emails you himself. And hey, Rob, you know, let's do a launch party on Clubhouse together. So I hate choosing, but I'd probably say Naveen Jain.
Yeah, you know, I've been doing a series of podcasts, and Dr. John DeMartini, that was he was a little bit different than everyone else. I mean, he read 30,000 books. I was like, okay, that's
yeah. Yeah, I've interviewed John 2, maybe 3 times. I'm friends with John. He's probably the most well-read and most polymath thinker that I think I've ever met. You know, such a diverse range of knowledge, a voracious and passionate learner. And actually probably for general life skills, probably learned the most from him out of anybody. And I always credit him. So, yeah.
Rob, in terms of you building your team now, how have you shifted from obviously offline to now online? What shifts have you made? What are some of the decisions that you've had to make? Have you let a lot of people go? What's the?
Okay. So the main shift is we created a load of online courses that were face-to-face, Shaq. Now, you've been doing that way before me. I was quite slow on that. And honestly, the reason was our UK company was doing well. I felt like it'd be a big distraction to set up a load of online courses when we've got our existing ones. I mean, we were doing 850 live events a year before COVID. And I felt that could cannibalize that. We could compete with ourselves. Why sell an online course at £1,000 when you can sell a face-to-face at 2? We just create competition for ourselves. So I was quite slow on that, Shaq. But of course, COVID made me have to do that. And now we have a dozen or more online courses. So, you know, that's been a great move for us. That's probably accelerated our journey 3 years in terms of going global. We had 95 staff across our training company and our lettings business before COVID. I think we got down to about 68 who weren't, we got down to about 35 and the rest on furlough. And we're back up to, I think, around about 75. but we had a bit of attrition where we lost some naturally. We let a couple go. Some kind of didn't want to carry on. Some got another job. Some were in furlough so long they were almost declimatized to work. So maybe we're at 2/3 to 3/4 of what our original staff was, maybe a little bit more. So we've retained most of them. And yeah, I mean, we haven't furloughed anyone this third lockdown round.
Yeah.
I want to try and grow through this, Shaq, and maybe take a few risks. Thankfully, we've got some money in the bank, so we can afford. You've got some burn rate, so if we have a few months and it's not great, we can ride that out. But actually, I see this as a great opportunity to grow.
Yeah, talking about this part, because when I was working with you, one of the great lessons I learned was stash cash, invest, multiple sources of income, diversify portfolio. And I remember just coming in the first day, and asking you more questions than anyone else. And then you looked at me and you said, "You have got your money's worth." And I thought, yeah. And I looked at everyone else and I thought, why do these people not ask any questions? But anyway, I learned quite a bit, which I'm very grateful for. I've learned from you. I always express that. Talk to me about advising. If you were advising, someone who's a startup or a 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure entrepreneur, some of the advice that you gave me, maybe it's changed, maybe it hasn't, maybe it has changed because of COVID, whatever the case is. You gave me some really good intel on having cash in the bank, how much, and why you should have it, and then what the opportunities that will come. Maybe kind of talk about that, right? Like if you are advising my listeners, the people watching this, what would you recommend to them?
I would recommend that if you have capital behind you, then you can ride out COVID, you can ride out recessions, you can ride out lean months. If you don't, you can't. So being well capitalized, whether that's access to capital or cash in the bank, or you put it in a better liquid investment where you can get it relatively quickly if you need it, like the stock market, or in an ISA, although ideally you want to roll them up with the tax breaks. I think that's really important. But also, if you have too much cash lying around with virtually zero interest rates, then obviously that money is depreciating. So any excess cash you want to invest into assets that produce income, and you want to spend the income, not the capital. So if you want a car, let's say you want a Mercedes, and it's 35 grand new, but it's £325 a month on a lease. Well, you invest the 35 grand that would be the capital to buy the car into an asset like property. You get it to the point where it pays you £325 net in income, and then you get a lease on the car, and you essentially get the car from the passive income. So you build assets up enough. Now you can leverage cash. You only have to put 25, 30% cash in a property, and you can leverage up the rest. So enough cash to ride out a year, maybe, of difficult times, but surplus cash reinvested into assets that create passive income. And then the recurring income you use to spend, not the capital. You preserve the capital.
Yeah, it's, I really took that to heart, because I remember I went there and I took my younger brother to come and meet you. And you told us a ridiculous, not a specific amount, but many number of years of cash in the bank, because one of your mentors told you that like a decade ago. Can you share that advice? Because that was really critical for me.
Yeah. So there's different forms of security. One form of security is to always be resourceful and to be able to pivot and change to the market. You can be very resourceful and creative and not have to need too much cash behind you. Some people work best like that. My business partner sometimes says he likes it if people he's working with, staff, partners, haven't got a huge amount of money, because they've got hunger if they haven't got a huge amount of money. That's one type of sort of resourcefulness or security. But on the other side is, if you build up months or years worth of burn rate, then you can survive any storm, any recession, any dip in income, any legal case, any change in regulation, any COVID or anything like that. And the first target would be to get to 3 months. So let's say your overhead is, 35 grand a month, whether it's personal or business. Well, if you get to 105 grand capital in the bank, then you can ride out 3 months with zero income. Then your next target is to get to a year. So you want £385,000 cash in bank. Or actually it's £420,000 cash in bank, I think, something like that. But, you get £500,000 in the bank and you can ride out a year without any extra sales. Now, in reality, your sales aren't going to probably drop to zero. So you could assume a 50% reduction in sales, which would give you 2 years burn rate. And the longer you build up that burn rate, burn rate is measured in months. So 12 months burn rate on full overhead means at your current overhead, you could burn cash for 12 months and still survive as a business. And the longer that burn rate goes up, the more protected you are from these irregular shocks or recessions. So we'd get to 3 months, then we'd get to a year, then we'd get to 2 years. And it just gives you that added layer of protection and security. Shaq, just while you're thinking, one more thing, let me add this. And as a marketer, you'll appreciate this. In marketing, often the person who can pay the most for a lead and at the highest volume wins the game. So another thing about having cash in the bank to burn is to be able to outspend your competitors in ads and marketing.
Yeah, I love that. That's why, I'm a big fan of funnels, because funnels allows you to go out and acquire people. And even if they don't buy straight there and then, you can build a relationship and
you can be negative. You can be negative on the front end. You can essentially be net down to acquire the customer. But if you've got a customer journey, you can gain profit on the back end, which means you can pay more on the front end, which means you can outbid your competitors.
Yeah. Where do you see the big opportunity in, let's do property, then marketing online, and then just marketing tech? So property, what's the big opportunity?
What, just in property investing in general, you mean?
Just in general, like during this time right now, if you were advising me, I've saved up, I could buy something,
Okay, so it depends on your experience and your level. I'd definitely start with a local buy-to-let because it's easiest. Just sort of get all the moving parts figured out. Like if you're teaching people funnels, you wouldn't tell them to create all 18 products all the way down the funnel straight away. You'd start with something, front end or back end or whatever. So start with a local buy-to-let, get that figured out. As you scale up, though, there's quite a lot of opportunity in the UK, especially in the high street, with all these empty retail units that are, pretty much dying, and converting them into residential is our main strategy now. And we're developing about 142 units of some big sort of shops with sort of 3 or 4 stories above. And that for us is, the great big opportunity right now.
And are you using only your own money, or are you raising money like
both? We don't raise money in the fund capacity like Grant does. There's a lot of regulation around raising money and managing a fund. But in the past, we've just used private finance to finance the buildings outright. So we've got one partner who financed the buy and development of a 38-room multi-let. It's quite a big building. And did he do the one next to it, which is about 18 units? I'm not sure if he did. But Mark and I made quite a few £1 million in net profit, so we needed to park it somewhere. So we've also bought our own buildings as well with our own cash, because I've already got Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Ariel Atoms and all that stuff. So and Pateks and everything else. So actually, I like putting quite a lot of my money back into property to then create the income again.
Where do you see the big opportunities for marketing? Right now, we're obviously spending a lot of time on Clubhouse. Actually, some people don't even know what Clubhouse is. Why don't you do the Clubhouse?
They need to get with the program, Shaq. Clubhouse is an audio social media app where you can exchange ideas with people in themed rooms via audio in real time, like a long radio show. And it is kicking off and going wild. Let me just check my following. I'll tell you what I'm at. This is crazy, by the way. So I'm at 40,500 followers in not even 3 weeks. So I overtook I had a Twitter account for years, admittedly not done too much. But in 11 days, I think, my following on Clubhouse overtook it. I am now 2 days away from overtaking my Instagram account size, and I've been posting every day for years. I'm probably 10 days away from overtaking my YouTube. I've got quite a good YouTube channel. It's quite big. It's just wild and viral. I've made so many connections, as you have, Shaq. So I'm being interviewed on lots of big podcasts. I'm being paid to do speaking events. I've met some, really interesting people. All sorts of opportunities have come my way. I've built like quite a big brand just on Clubhouse. I am the second highest person I know in the UK for following, behind John. I'm not seen anyone else with a bigger following. I only know 4 people that I can think of. There will be more, but I only know 4 or 5 people who've got a bigger following than me. And I've put the time in, don't get me wrong, but it's just crazy how viral the growth is and how amazing the opportunity is to build a great brand and to connect with so many people all over the world. I'm in all these WhatsApp groups with all of the moderators and getting opportunities thrown at me all the time. It's just.
Why do you think it's grown so fast? I mean, you and I a couple of hundred hours, I think, in that platform, right?
Yeah.
And, you have to also understand. Like, I checked one of my team members, and he's like, "Yo, I have an Android." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you're not even on this app." So there's a whole group of people that they haven't even been introduced to this, right? So
yeah, they will be soon. But I mean, I would, if I'd have known now, 3 weeks ago, if I'd have known what I know now, I'd have just got an Apple phone, even if I was on Android. I've got a second phone just for Clubhouse because I don't like it on all the time. I like to put it away because obviously it's distracting if you're listening to audio all the time. Well, I think the reason it is like it is, one, it's very new. It's quite unregulated. It's not been iterated 58 times with a million rules and a million changes. It wants to grab market share. So the algorithms are going to be kind in that regard. It wants to grab market share. What I hope it does is make all the other social media channels relax their algorithms, because I've got nearly 150,000 followers on Facebook that I've organically built up over the years, and I put content out every day, Shaq, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, but it won't give me more than 200 to 300 organic new followers a week. It's bullshit. Yeah. Whereas I'll get 3,000 followers a day on Clubhouse.
What's the most like, if you were to give me or someone tips on maximizing Clubhouse growth, what should people be doing when they join this app?
Okay, so they should be populating their bio with, your bio is like your CV, so make it look as good as you can. Bullet pointy what you've done. So mine is investor, speaker, podcaster, 17 times business author, including money, 2-time public speaking world record holder, disruptive entrepreneur podcast with 620 apps, business of the year award 2016, 9 figures in revenue, 840 rental units. So it's a CV list, because when people land on that, that'll make them decide if they want to DM you on Instagram or follow you. So first, and the next thing is you want to get in rooms and get your hand raised and get up onto that stage as quick as you can. And if you ask good questions or make good comments, you're going to end up getting moderated a bit. And when you're moderated, then you're seen. And of course, people will follow you and they will see you as good social proof. And then you want to get to know as many moderators as possible so you can go and join their rooms and share rooms with them. That's what you did, that, Shaq, pretty much straight away. I was a few days after you, but obviously I've spent quite a lot of time on the app and I've managed to sort of get in there and do some good collaborations now. Like I said, we had a room running. Well, it's probably still running, but we started a room, had 1,500 people in it. We got up to 1,200 people in an hour. And that's there's 1,200 people in it now. And there's 35 moderators. We're all sort of partnering up and working together. It is the most collaborative social media platform that exists right now. And I love that about it. In a year, everyone might be competitive. Don't come in my room. Don't let that person in my room. Don't let that person a moderator. But right now, it's very open. I mean, we've known each other for years, but it's only now we've started talking about doing this podcast and working together on a product. And I think Clubhouse has probably opened our mind to that.
Yeah, 100%. I've been going around and I'm like, how do I build a deeper relationship? And I'm like, let me just get them on my podcast. And it's funny because, when I was with you, you had told us you had told everyone, go and start a podcast. And I was like, nah, man, I don't know about podcasts. And now I think I'm 150 episodes in, had 2 or 3 billionaire entrepreneurs on my one. So it's been good. Had a few people that I haven't connected. And then I did, like Jay Abraham and stuff. They came on the podcast. That was fun. In terms of other asset classes, I know you buy lots of stuff, fun stuff like art and watches. What's your view on Bitcoin? I mean, Bitcoin.
My view on Bitcoin is not that many people understand it. And I think if you can really figure it out, you can probably win at it. Because if you really figure out watches or classic cars or property or information marketing, you can win at it. But you've got to know if you're gambling or you're investing. And most people are gambling. So if you want to get into it, one, obviously try and figure out all the platforms and how they work because they're complicated. 2, start with money you can afford to lose. Like if you lost it all, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, obviously a bit gutted, but it doesn't hurt me. 3, pound cost average, which means don't put all your money in at once. Put it in at different times in case you put it all in and then you get a massive crash. And like anything else, if you master any class, like Warren Buffett has mastered investing in companies, you'll make it work. So I'm not for it or against it. I know my own limitations, Shaq, in that I know I don't know enough about it. So for me, I'd put play money in and I'd probably get advice from people who know it more than me. I know watches a lot more. I know information marketing and property a lot more. So they're better bets for me. Now, FOMO is the worst thing ever for all of us. Like, Clubhouse rooms and you fear of missing out in some of them if they go wild or whatever. But, a lot of people are getting into Tesla stock and Bitcoin because of FOMO. And look, it's really high at the moment, both of those. And everyone's talking about Tesla and Bitcoin. But I think that, it could be quite bullish. It could be a bit bubblish. Because if everyone's talking about it, it means all the non-sophisticated money is talking about it. And that usually creates a bubble. So honestly, I'm not advising, but just honestly telling you, Shaq, I'll probably wait to go in again when there's another correction. There may not ever be. I might miss my chance.
Rob, just as a friend, I've been in it since early 2016, way before the big up. And so if you ever need to have a chat, just hit me up and I'll tell you what I'm doing. So
I will.
Yeah, because I remember getting in after my friend had acquired close to 1,000 Bitcoins. And he was one of my students that was teaching him internet marketing. And he had gone on to make a few $1 million. One of my most successful students, he surpassed $20 million in sales for himself. And he was like, Shaq, you helped me so much. You need to get into this thing. I was like, I don't want to do it. And then slowly, he got me into it. And that's, it's basically where I am at least 50% of the time in that space when I'm not focusing on funnels and Clubhouse.
Yeah, I get it. Like you figure it out, you know it better than anyone else. You're probably going to do well. Yeah.
We're going to wrap up in just a few minutes, but Rob, I want to say huge thanks. You have 17 books. What are the most popular books? If someone wants to read 1 or 2 of your books, I'm going to include the links below this video and stuff. But during this time right now, what's 1 or 2 books that you can recommend? And then I have one final question, and then we're going to wrap it up.
So if I were to say 2 books of mine, the bestseller and the bestseller pound for pound, i.e. sold slightly less, but in less time. So the bestseller is Life Leverage, which is basically how to outsource most of your life and to create leverage and to sort of save time, business life and personal life. And then Money, because Money pound for pound has probably sold more, but it's just not been in the market quite as long. For me, I don't think there's enough education around money. I think people don't have a good enough relationship with money. It's either too greedy or the opposite, where it's, they don't value it enough and they're always poor. So for me, that's probably the book that's done the most good, because, if we can get well educated on money and understand what it really is and have a great relationship with it, then we can master it. It can be a servant to us rather than us a slave to it. And we can make money and make a difference. So Money, Life Leverage.
Yeah. Last final question, just to wrap up on the 45-minute mark. Rob, what's your top piece of advice for someone who wants to shift their mindset especially during times of uncertainty, recession, COVID? How should they be just overall looking at it, right? Because there's news, there's negativity, there's scarcity. Like, what's your shift? What's the shift that you can advise someone to have to be more abundant?
Okay, so the main concept, which I believe to be a fact of humanity, is balance, in that every upside has a downside and every downside has an upside. And in any event or situation or person or circumstance, it will have equal upside and downside as you perceive it. So, in creative destruction, like we've gone through in the last year in business, when one business dies, another business flourishes. When one person dies, another person is born. So understand right now that there is massive upside opportunity from the downside of COVID, the downside of the lockdown, and whatever downside in business or life that you've experienced, there's an upside. There's a birth to the death. There's a creation to the destruction. There's an upside to the downside. And I think when you understand that, it really helps you maintain a healthy balance, wisdom, perspective, growth, evolution. So, for example, if you're in any extreme, then you're going to live probably quite an emotionally triggered, destructive life. Like if you're overly up and elated, then you're probably going to create chaos because you're not seeing downside and you're not careful and considered enough. But if you're just all downside, which is depression, you're only going to see downside and you're not seeing opportunity. So in any moment in time, if you can understand there's an upside and a downside, like doing this interview together with you, Shaq, we'll educate some people, we'll get some new fans. But you and I aren't able to spend this hour with our wife or our family, and we'll get a couple of haters. So no matter what you do, there's an upside and a downside in anything that you do. And when you understand that, that's wisdom. And when you don't, it's imbalance. And mania is overly high or overly low, manic depression. So for me, that gives you a balance, an emotional sureness, and like I said, natural wisdom. It also helps you endure all the challenges that life throws you because you understand there's an upside to it and a lesson to be learned. Now, anything that anyone watching and listening has gone through that's really hard, but years ago, what does everyone say? Oh, it was really hard at the time, but now it's the greatest gift ever. Like a divorce or a business breakup, because they can see the upside now because the pain has gone. Wisdom is seeing the upside in the pain and in the moment.
Wow. Rob, you should write another book just around this topic. What a mic drop, man. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for being a friend and just all around cool guy. Guys, go check him out, robmoor.com, Progressive Property, and the Disruptive Entrepreneur. I have some exciting news for you guys as well. So make sure you're updated with the newsletter. I'm going to be sending out links to Rob's stuff. Other than that, Rob, appreciate you, brother.
You too, Shaq. Amen. Thank you. And the Shaqir, Hussyin, spelled Hussyin. That's the right spelling, is it?
That's it.
Yeah, show. So make sure you go follow him as well. Shaqir Hussyin. Great podcast, 160 guests. I'm so glad you did your podcast, Shaq. Everyone who I've got a lot of people into podcasting by telling them, and everyone said it's been a great experience and they've met great people. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much again, and look forward to catching up with you on Clubhouse.
See you there, Shaq, in 10 seconds. Quick.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to the stage with two